is the Fed on the right track? Is it time to hike rates?
No. I mean, the way I always put it is, look, we don't know when the next U.S. recession is coming. We don't know when the next adverse shock is hitting. The question we should ask is, does the Fed have the ammunition to deal with it when it comes? And the answer is clearly not. Rates are still very close to zero. You can't cut rates any further, significantly further. It would really help a lot if we had a little bit more inflation so that you could cut real rates further when the next recession comes. And by saying, well, okay, inflation is coming up on our target, maybe, not above it, but coming up on it, so we're going to raise rates, what you're doing is you're throwing away the chance to, or I'm not a sailor, but I think this is like, you're close to a lee shore, and yeah, you're not going to hit, you're not looking like you're going to run aground right now, but you really want to get a little ways away from it before the next storm hits. And the Fed is bizarrely determined to act as if things are normal when they are nowhere near normal.
So you would say, don't raise rates this year?
No, don't raise rates this year. Don't raise rates next year. Don't fire till you see the whites of inflation's eyes.
So let's move on to the Bank of Japan then, because the latest big step for Governor Kuroda and his colleagues was to say, we're going to not be specifically targeting monetary base, we're going to target the yield curve control. What do you make of this policy? Is it going to succeed finally in raising Japanese inflation?
I am unclear. I mean, it's worth trying stuff, and Kuroda has been a much more adventurous, determined guy, I think, than anyone might have expected. I still think not enough. I mean, the problem, I think, with Japan is it's very, very difficult to raise inflation simply through monetary policy when you're already at zero. Nothing you do really has very much direct effect. It's all a mind game. It's all about trying to convince people that there will be inflation, so they should spend, which then generates the inflation. It's trying to pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. And that's very hard to do. The only way it has a chance of succeeding, unless it has a lot of support from other stuff, like fiscal policy, the only way it has a chance of succeeding is if you have something that is really a very clear regime change, where people say, this is not the world we were in before, inflation is really coming, and I don't think a switch from monetary base to yield curve targeting is going to do that. Has
to be fiscal policy at this point?
Well, fiscal policy or something, it's hard to see what more, actually. They've already had a pretty big shift in the political economy of monetary policy. So I think they really, the second arrow of Abenomics, it was supposed to be monetary policy, fiscal policy, and structural reform. I'm not too big on the third arrow, but the second arrow has still not arrived. So give us that second arrow.